Last week, I wrote out a few things that I was looking to improve on in the coming week. Let's find out if I actually did improve on those things or not, and what were the results. This is going to be our first week's recap on a goal to get our first ever payout with prop firms. If you're new here, my name is Shane Gab. I've been trading for a little over a year and some change now, trading futures live. Earlier this year, I set a goal to make an income from trading that will actually go on my taxes this year. So far, we're closing into Q4 and I have still yet to accomplish that goal. So I decided to build a journal with the key features that I needed, such as tag analysis and AI coaching, and I decided to double down to reach this goal by the end of the year. So follow me to find out if I do actually reach this goal by the end of Q4. And now with intros out the way, let's get into the video. So first, let's talk about the structure of this video and all of these recaps going forward. The first part of the video is where I go over iterations needed from last week. So every Saturday morning, I do something called a market morning, where I take out a certain time of the day to really plan and look over how I traded that previous week. And during that previous week, I'll make insights, I'll make new lessons and observations, but really I will look for key features that I need to improve on going into next week. I call this the iterations needed moving forward. So that's the first part of this video. The next part is where I actually look at these iterations to see if I made them and what the result of the week was. I always like to say skin in the game is the best way to know that you're alive. So I like to put a little bit of a reward and punishment at stakes, which means I would like to have a reward if I do complete the iterations and also a punishment if I don't complete the iteration. The punishment for this week is that I have to run 2 miles. Now let me tell you something. For someone who hates running, this is an absolute punishment for me. This is as close to hell on earth as I can find. And I do know it's only 2 miles. While some of you are out there running ultra marathons, this is my ultra marathon. So this was my punishment that I chose. Next part of the video is I go over lessons and insights that I've made from this coming week. And there's a few of them that I would really like to share this week. And last but not least, I go over the iterations needed to move forward. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with part 1 of the video. Let's take a look at the iterations needed from last week. There was a few of them. First things first was the stat orbs. I wanted to make sure that I only entered the stat orbs after 9:43, and I only took 2 entries maximum for the stat orb. The reason why was because I was taking a lot of entries for this play and I was just catching a lot of unnecessary losses. I was entering too early when my data tells me the exact time that I need to be looking for the setup. That was iteration number 1. The second iteration, as you can see here, is stop taking trades that aren't defined plays for you. There was so many times where I took invented setups that I never traded before, but I had an idea of what the market would do next and I traded them. They turned out to be the P&L killers for that week. And if you don't know what my progress was last week, it was negative $500, which is almost negative 2%. I don't want to be down negative 2% on a week, especially when I can avoid it. So it was very simple. I was only looking for 4 plays. First one is the stat orbs. The second one is the C-bar, or catch a bull and ride. The third one is a 9 a.m. break. And the fourth one is a Trojan horse. These were the only 4 plays that I was looking for this week, and I promised myself the biggest iteration was that I wasn't going to trade any invented setups. Last but not least, there was a hypothesis that I wanted to look at. So I've done a really good job of noticing that how the first 10 minutes play out can give me a little bit of a micro vision of where price may go. So this week I wanted to further improve on my ability of reading what happens in those first 10 minutes, taking in all the context, and then acting on it. So those were the 3 iterations that I wanted to make this week. Now, as far as weekly progress, let's take a look at it. So compared to last week, which was a negative $583 week, which is almost 2 to 3%, we ended the week positive at 313 or 317. Now, of course, we only traded 2 days out this week. I decided to take the 12th off, and I can't really remember why I didn't trade the 9th and the 10th. But overall, though, I'm very proud because 1, I stuck to just trading the plays that I know and have experience with. So that's the first iteration that I can say happily I've completed. The second thing is that on my stat orbs, I did not exceed my 2 entry maximum at all, which is another one that I can be pretty proud of. And third, I can definitely say I further grew my understanding of how the first 10 minutes play out a lot more this week. So we can successfully say that this week we did improve on our iterations and we did become a better trader. And this week, the results show. Alright, so now let's talk about the insights and lessons that I made this week. Starting with the first one, the Trojan horse. So the Trojan horse is a play that I have recently developed, and I started to notice in the market it kind of plays out towards the open. This week I took 2 setups of the Trojan horse, and one was a win and one was a loss. The key insights that I made was what was the differences between the two. So for example, the Trojan horse. For example, one of the biggest ones was the winners. I had let that 5-minute candle close for the Trojan horse, while on the loser I did not, right? In the loser I kind of pre-jumped the gun, while in the winner I actually let the 5-minute candle close to confirm the CVD divergence. The second thing that I noticed was difference between the winners and the losers was that one had a CVD of almost negative 300. If you don't know what CVD is, it's just a cumulative volume delta. It's just a delta of a bar by bar added up over the session. So off the open, we automatically had negative 300 delta versus the other one, which was the loser, we had like negative 54. So one had stronger aggro sellers than the other. Third thing is that I had noticed that the candle had large wicks on both sides. And to show you, so on the screen, we have the 2 scenarios of the CVD or the Trojan horse play. So this one was the loser and this one was the winner. First thing that I noticed was that on the winner, the first 5-minute open had a very large wick to the upside, showing rejection of higher prices. And also we was around that prior session value area high. While in the second one, we did have a very high wick to the upside, but this 5-minute candle did not close. So as this 5-minute candle goes on, right, it closes like this, which is a huge difference between the large wick that this one had. So that was the third difference that I had noticed. The fourth, which is the one I just mentioned a little bit ago, was that we was near value area high of the prior recent trading hours session. So seeing rejection of continued prices near an area where it seemed to be the high end or the extreme of what participants believed was fair value and good price for the NASDAQ on yesterday's trading session can definitely mean, hey, listen, we are kind of comfortable where prices are right now. We're not really interested in seeing higher prices. So that was another sign right here that was kind of a little bit of a tail giveaway for me as well. And then the last but not least was that we did not make a new high, right? So that second 5-minute candle did not make a new high at all. And in a second, I'm going to explain what I look for in the first 10 minutes of open. So if the first insight was around the Trojan horse, the second insight is going to be around the stat orbs. So for the stat orbs, I always have a theory. My theory about the first 10 minutes seems to be helping me out get a sense of direction, more right than wrong. So how do I use this, right? I look at the first 2 5-minute candles to gain a sense of direction of where we might go in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I like to see if we're going to have a trend day. I like to see 2 bullish candles follow up on each other. So one bullish candle here and then the second bullish candle here. Something that looks like these 2 prior, but at the open. If we're having a mean reverting day, I would like to see something like this. One bullish candle going extremely in direction. We're closing a little bit. The second candle doesn't even attempt to attack the highs. It just is uninterested in seeing that price at all. And we continue back the other way, right? These have been very, very helpful. And it's vice versa for bearish conditions or bearish scenarios. But these have been very, very helpful. Now compare this with the Trojan horse gives me a big edge, but also comparing it with the stat orb tells me what side we're gonna break out first. It tells me exactly, are participants willing to move prices in the continued direction, or do they disagree on that? So the next thing that was kind of interesting to me was one of my entries on the stat orbs. So I believe it was this day right here. So this day right here, as you can see on this 1-minute chart with my orb indicator on, we had a little bit of a sideways movement, which to me was a little bit of a sign of mean reverting. So I kind of wanted to see if we go down, if we're mean reverting, and if this stat orbs play is to still play out today, I would want an entry right here at the lows of that mean reverting little area, or that little ranging area you want to call it. I would like an entry right here at the lows. My stop would be very tight right here at the midpoint, because I have a statistic that tells me if we cross this midpoint, we're not going to break to that side, majority of the times at least. So I'll look at the position myself right there for an entry. Now, as you can see, that first entry was a little rough. So I had followed my 2 iteration rules and I had decided I'm going to give myself one more entry just to make sure. So this was a good entry right here. This is exactly where I wanted it to be, and as you can see, prices did move up. Now I couldn't be greedy and hold on to my full take profit, because yet again, if it's true that we're mean reverting and we're in a mean reverting area, by the time we reach these highs, we're going to be looking for a turnaround. So I understood that, and I decided the first chance I see of it like kind of just tapping and just kind of failing to reject, I'm going to close. And that's what happened here. Then as you can see what happened later, it just kind of, went down for a little bit. Then you get this weird candle that just kind of spikes up automatically and hits your take profit. But it's all good. That's what trading is. It happens like that. I still made the right decision on the day. And last but not least, the 9 a.m. break. So the 9 a.m. break is the final play that I'll get to play majority of the days. The 9 a.m. break is just simply these stat orbs, but from the window of 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And here was the exact same thing. I was looking for an entry right here at these prior highs, right next to point of control. Once I seen that we've successfully rejected off point of control, I looked for an entry. And then I just wanted to see how it was gonna go. Now the insight here comes from these two candles right here that's coming up. So these two candles start off pretty bullish, but then they close not so bullish. And as you can see, both of them failed to make new highs. For me, the insight came that if candles are failing to make new highs, but they're wicking above, it could be a sign of exhaustion. It could be a sign that we are struggling to make a move higher, and it's not necessarily what I want to see. If I'm expecting us to break new highs, I want to see candles leading up to it to continuously close above that prior candle's high. So far we went over the iterations from last week that needed to be improved on this week, and we can successfully say yes, we did improve on. So your boy doesn't have to run 2 miles. Thank God. Next, we look to see if those iterations made a difference in results. And as you can see, we went from a highly negative week of negative 583 to a positive week of 313 or 17. We went over the lessons and insights made this week about the stat orbs, the opening range breakout, the Trojan horse, and 9 a.m. break. So we went over our insights made this week. Last but not least, we need to go over the iterations that I'm looking for next week. So the first iteration that I'm automatically looking for next week is I want to wait for that 5-minute candle to close on my Trojan horse setup. That's it. I want to continue to refine and improve on these setups or plays. And the best way to do that is when I get the chance to execute on what I figured out didn't work last time. That gives me a faster iteration loop. So first things first, on the Trojan horse, I'm going to just wait for that 5-minute candle to close. And also I'm going to look to see if that CVD is greater than 200 by bare minimum. If it's not greater than 200, I'm going to pass on the setup all along. The next iteration that I want to look for is I only want to take these 4 plays. So same iteration from last week, but I feel like I need to build and really cement this rule in my trading, right? Stat orb, Trojan horse, 9 a.m. break, C-bar, or catch a bull and ride. These are the 4 plays that I'm looking to take, and I'm going to continuously take from now all the way until the end of the year. I'm going to collect a lot of data on it. I'm going to fail a lot of prop firm challenges. I might pass some, who knows? But these are the 4 plays that I'm going to use because these are the 4 plays I'm familiar with. They give me the attempt to look for multiple opportunities in the day, so I'm not just looking for one. And also, they seem pretty profitable from how I'm trading it so far. So with that being said, these are the iterations going forward for next week. And now we've reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed, learned something at all, feel free to like and subscribe, comment any feedback that you have that'll help me on my journey, and feel free to follow to keep track of my journey as well. Peace and love.